your faces, your voices, and all that. So we've done that in advance. And I must welcome you all to the November edition of the Dynamical Consulting webinars. And this time around, this is the fourth in the series. And I must especially appreciate every one of you for taking time to join. But before I go on, let me confirm I'm audible. Please, can you all confirm you can hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you very much. I see I have most of my panelists here. I think it's just I'm waiting for okay, I think I'm just waiting for Shola Gideon to join us. I'm sure he'll be joining us shortly. Okay, yes. So we're going right into it, and of course we try not to do what people call the African time. We try to keep the time in everything we do and make sure we start. If we say we're going to start a meeting by 7 p.m., we make sure we start by 7 p.m. on the dot. And of course, we're starting right on time. And I'll just take us through a brief introduction. Of course, with this for this November edition, we're looking at the theme resilience or docility, navigating mental health amidst Nigeria's challenges. And before we go into that, I'll just give us a quick background to what we do at Dynamical Consulting webinars. We actually started this sometime in August 2024. Of course, the first topic we talked about then was learning, how the kids learn today. In August, we focused on the way children learn and looking at the areas of different levels of learning and how it can be matched, traditional, virtual, among other things. Then in September, we had another webinar, which we titled The Science of Content Creation. Now, the science of content creation there focused on what's, basically from the fact that everyone is basically these days almost like a content creator. The fact that you're able to get your phone and take a picture and you're able to share on your status anyway automatically kind of makes you a content creator because you have people who consume whatever it is you're sharing. Then last month, October, we discussed the lens and the phone. Basically, we're trying to explore it from the angle of photographers, the photography industry. How do they really survive in a situation where everyone literally has a mobile phone, especially iPhones? We see the battle between that. And this time around, we're having another topic, of course, focusing more on the areas or the aspects of our mental health. And that's what we're looking at it, calling it resilience or docility, navigating mental health amidst Nigeria's challenges. And what are we talking about basically here? When we look at the current situation surrounding Nigeria, look at our political climate, our economic climate, and the social upheavals, So it's often, we normally boast and say that Nigerians are wonderful people, that we are resilient people, we are strong people. So a lot of times, we equate resilience with strength because of the fact that we're able to endure so much. We feel that, oh, yes, this is strength. But then what happens when does it now start to become quiet compliance? Is it possible that we're actually masking some unaddressed mental health needs? That we just think we are fine, but we are not really fine. And this is what this webinar wants to focus on today. So this webinar is going to delve into that fine line between resilience and docility. Of course, resilience, from the root word itself, to be resilient means to be tenacious, to be strong, to remain unfazed, no matter what happens. But now, where's that thin line between it and docility? When do you now become a docile being, such that you take anything that comes without questioning it, without even bothering or just accepting it for what it is? We want to explore the mental health implications in this. We want to see how we can unpack that cultural, social, and religious influences that shape our coping mechanisms. Because yes, Nigerians have become people that cope with a lot of things. We are very, very strong people. We cope. There is literally nothing we cannot cope with, no matter how tough it is. I like to use the current situation, for instance. I never for the life of me imagined that the time would come that I'll be buying fuel for 1,100 naira per liter, and I'll be happy to buy it because I know that if I don't buy it here, I'll have to buy it maybe 1,200 somewhere else. And I'm trying to avoid queues and all that. So we see all this, and never for the life of me would have imagined we'll get to that point. Interestingly, a friend of mine would tell me that, look, if this fuel thing becomes 2,500 naira tomorrow, Nigerians will still buy it. And I'm like, wow. And I think to a large extent, that might really be true. We've become so used to adapting, and we keep adapting and adapting, forgetting that it's very possible that we are losing ourselves. We're losing our, ourselves. We're losing ourselves. Let me put it that way. So I want to explore this today. And of course, our panelists today are powerful people, like they say, wonderful people that I'm looking forward to their conversations in this webinar today. Of course, I have Pastor Wale Akinyomi here. I trust Pastor Wale Akinyomi is already on board. Please, can you confirm you're here, sir? I'm trying to look through the list of those here now if I can find Pastor Wale Akinyomi here. If you're around, if you can unmute yourself, sir, or maybe wave a hand just so we know you're here, sir. Is Pastor Wale Akinyomi here? Okay, I think, okay, I see him, I see him. All right, I can see Pastor Wale Akinyomi right now. All right. Yeah, so we have Pastor Wale Akinyomi here. Of course, we also have Ms. Bukola Oladeji here as well. Okay, thank you, Genesis. I see your comment there. Yes, I've seen it here. Yes, of course, we have Ms. Bukola Oladeji too. So Pastor Wale Akinyomi, I'll be reading their citations in a bit, but before then, let me just gloss over it very quickly. These are people that are people who are very close to me. I mean, I've known for a while, and I can tell you for free that these are people that will tell us a lot, that will give us a lot of meat in this conversation. Of course, we have Bukola Oladeji as well. We have Sola Ogidon as well, and we also have Sarah Shile. So those are the 4 panelists I'm going to be having in this edition of the Dynamical Webinars, right, where we focus on resilience or docility, navigating mental health amidst Nigeria's challenges. So before I bring them on board, I'll just continue a bit with the introduction. So Bukola is going to be talking to us first, and Bukola Oladeji, that is Ms. Bukola Oladeji, on the price of resilience. Now, is there a price to resilience? Basically, is there a price you have to pay for being resilient? When does it get to the point that your resilience anymore? When do you now begin to feel the burden of that resilience? Begin to feel that, look, paying a very huge price. And I think Nigerians are actually in that space at this point. So she's going to be looking at the price of resilience, culture. I mean, what has been the background to who we have become today? Did we just become like this automatically, or this is how we've been programmed? Were we programmed to be like this? We want to see the cultural, societal, and implications that surround our coping mechanism. And then, of course, Shola Ogidon is going to be talking about the role of religion. It's going to be looking at it from the spiritual side. One of the things we face in our country today is that we equate a lot of things with spirituality. Rather than people think that I need to get myself checked, I need to see a psychiatrist, or I need to see a psychologist, as they call it in the Western world. I need to see a shrink. They rather say, I need to go to church and pray. I need to go to the mosque. We equate a lot of things with spiritual stuff that, look, it's a spiritual matter. We want to see, how do we balance faith with mental health advocacy? So Jolai will be talking about the role of religious beliefs in shaping our perceptions of mental health, and how faith-based communities can provide both support and challenges in navigating well-being. Then of course, Pastor Akinyomi is going to help us wrap it up and basically put a lead on the entire thing, where he's going to be discussing policy and advocacy, how we can build support systems for mental health. It will be focused on the importance of mental health policies, grassroots advocacy, and of course, organizational efforts in creating sustainable support for Nigerians. My name is Olubenga Shile, and I'll be anchoring this session. And of course, for our agenda, we're going to be having the first 10 minutes as an introduction, which I'm currently doing. And my 10 minutes just ran out anyway, and I'm going to be moving fast very quickly now. Then, of course, we're going to be having the panelist presentations for 40 minutes. Each panelist is going to speak for 10 minutes on the apportioned theme. And in 40 minutes, we'll be done with all of that. Hopefully, they don't stretch the time. We'll try not to. Then after that, we're going to panel discussions for another 20 minutes, where we're just discussing generally and having insight into their thoughts around some of these conversations. And then we're going to a Q&A session. I mean, somebody's sharing the screen there. Can you please stop sharing screen? Who is sharing the screen there? I see Ajogu. Please, can you stop sharing your screen, please? Can you stop sharing your screen? Thank you. Just so we can focus on this. Then, of course, we're going to a Q&A session for 30 minutes. Where we allow the audience speak, and we are not looking for excuse the pun if that's allowed. We're not looking for a docile audience. We're looking for an active audience, an audience that can actually speak to these matters. Let's hear your own realities, you know, in the little time apportioned to you. Tell us what you think. Is this, I mean, basically, who made us like this? Let me ask you in local pidgin power. Who do us, you know, as a country? Who made us the way we are? Why are we this? Why are we so resilient that it has almost like become docility in some cases? Then, of course, we have our closing remarks and we wrap it up. And as usual, we're going to be having our giveaway. Every of our webinars for the last 3 sessions, we do a giveaway of 20,000 naira. I don't know who the lucky winner is going to be this time around, but the criteria for winning the giveaway is basically your engagements, the way you're able to communicate in the course of these webinars, the questions you're able to ask, the insights you're also able to give, and all that. And of course, we will be deciding who is walking away with that 20,000 naira prize today. So please feel free to reach out to your friends who are not here. Tell them to join us and see if they can be maybe a winner today or so. But that's not even the reason why. The major reason why they should be joining this session is so they can actually get some insights and listen to people who can listen to relatable conversations. So thank you once again for joining us. And at this time, I'm going to be introducing my panelists, and I'm going to be starting with, of course, with Pastor Wale Akinyomi. I'm going to read his cite. Okay, let's do it this way. Let me read their citations when they are about to come in. So who is going to be taking it first for us now is going to be, of course, Bukola Oladeji, right? As Bukola is going to be talking to us about the price of resilience, a psychological perspective on endurance. I mean, so that's what she'll be talking about today. I'm going to be reading Bukola's citation shortly, and I'm going to also be sharing my screen so we can follow that conversation. So let me read a citation in a bit now. Thank you very much again for joining this webinar, and I look forward to having a very exciting time with every one of you. Now, Bukola Olanike Oladeji is a certified, sorry, excuse me, let me just have a bit of a disturbance on my screen. Is a certified mental health practitioner, counselor, life coach, and consultant with a passion for transforming lives. A mass communication graduate from the Polytechnic Ibadan, she has earned additional certifications in product management, project management, and human resource management from Amsterdam, Netherlands. With nearly 2 decades of experience across the financial industry, human resources, hospitality, IT, and NGO management, Bukola's expertise spans Africa, Europe, and North America. She is the administrator and project supervisor at Golden Lamp Leadership Initiative Africa, empowering leaders and fostering innovation. As the lead coach at Emerge Consulting, she provides counseling and therapy services. While at Emerge Global Resources Limited, she heads HR operations, including recruitment and training. A sought-after speaker and convener of the Transformational Retreat for Women, Bukola regularly features on media platforms addressing mental health, personal growth, and self-development. Thank you very much for joining us in this webinar, Bukola, and of course, we look forward to a very exciting time. And I'll yield the floor to you for the next 10 minutes to discuss the price of resilience. Over to you, Bukola. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Benga. Thank you. Yeah. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're joining from. And it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you, Benga Shele, for that introduction, and welcome to everybody. Speaking to, Benga has given us the introduction we need to know as regards what we're talking about this evening. And I'm going to be speaking about the price of resilience. That's going to be my emphasis tonight. Okay, let me turn my...
Bukola, if you don't mind, you could share your video so people can actually see and know that they're not talking to an AI. If it's okay. Oh, thank you.
Sorry, I didn't realize that it's not on. All right, so, okay. I like the fact that he gave the introduction to the fact that Nigerians can cope with everything. Whatever the situation is, we have the ability to cope. That's the assumption. That's what we think is the reality. But the truth be told, some people are actually struggling, and because it is assumed that they have to pretend or they have to numb, that's the term we use in psychology for docility. We call it numbness. The ability to you are quiet, you are not able to really express the real situation. That's what we call numbness or docility, as you may want to call it. But how are we actually supposed to navigate in this kind of situation? Are we supposed to navigate. That's what I'm going to be speaking to tonight. All right, I have about 9 minutes more to do that. Okay, thank you. What is what is resilience? I would like to define what resilience is before I go to other things, because I can't assume that everybody knows what resilience is. Resilience is actually the ability to function well in the face of adversity. The truth be told, at a point or the other in your life, in our lives, every one of us, we would go through things that will test our resilience. And there are factors that can actually determine how resilient you are. You and I are not going to be on the same level of resilience. I will speak to that shortly. But let me emphasize what resilience is. Resilience is the ability to function maximally in the face of challenges. Your resilience is the ability to recover, to recover when you have setbacks, because we will always have setbacks. Excuse me a moment. All right, so resilience is the capacity to withstand or recover quickly from difficulties. I just thought to emphasize that. Okay, so let me move to what docility is. The quality of being quiet, we call it numbness. Like I said, we call it numbness in my career. Numbness, sometimes we don't know how to express what we are feeling, or sometimes we feel that the best way we want to react or the best way we want to attend to whatever is going on is to be numb. But that may not actually be the right approach to the issues of life. And the truth be told, like I have said earlier, we all at a point or the other will go through issues that will actually test our resilience. There are some instances that I would like to highlight that there's nobody that would be faced with these instances that will not be tested, that your resilience will not be tested. The death of a loved one. The truth is that the way you react to the death of your loved one will actually be different. There will be a different reaction from me depending on my temperament and my upbringing and a lot of factors. But the death of a loved one can actually change you for the rest of your life. Some people would react better and others will not. And you'll be wondering why. Divorce is something that will change your life forever. Some people, you don't want to know, because I experienced this as a counselor and as a mental health practitioner. People get to speak to me, people that have gone through issues like this, financial and economic situation. If you think this financial and economic situation is peculiar to Nigeria, maybe you're not aware. The whole world is going through recession. You may feel it's peculiar to Nigeria, but that is not the real situation. People abroad, our brethren abroad, they are actually going through economic and financial issues as well. So it's not peculiar to Nigeria. Illnesses is another instance, is another factor that will test your resilience, the ability to cope, the ability to cope, the loss of a job. When you have a regular source of income and you are served breakfast at work, permit me to use that word, maybe you were not prepared for it and all that, you will be your resilience will be tested. Another instance that will test your resilience is medical emergencies. There are times that beyond illnesses, there are medical emergencies that may not necessarily be illnesses, but that require some level of resilience. Natural disaster is another instance that will test your resilience. Having said that, all that I've said, they're under some different types of resilience, but everything that I've mentioned, they are under 4: physical resilience, mental resilience, emotional resilience, and social resilience. Now, what is the price of resilience? When Benga was speaking, he was emphasizing what is the price of resilience. What is the price of resilience? The truth be told, resilience actually has a price. But that price is dependent on you and I. That price is dependent on the person facing this issue. To be resilient, you need to pass through hardship, storms and shaking. We will endure pain and suffering. We will fall. So that we can learn to get up. What do you do with your resilience? That is actually the price that you have to pay for the resilience. How do you react to it? There are prices to be paid. There are instances, there are things that you have to change. For example, let me give this example. Somebody going through financial or economic challenges. If you are, I've heard a couple of times in my life that it's a crime to be doing one thing for a living. You must be doing several things. You are faced with financial issues and you have not been able to come up with other things that you can add, other sources of income that you can add to what you do. You may not be paying the price that is due you, that is expected of you to pay when it comes to resilience. What price are you willing to pay? Because there's definitely a price if you are going to survive, if you're going to scale through, if you're going to come back bouncing from that issue of life that has challenged you. Okay, so having said that, I would like to quickly say, how do you build this resilience in the face of all these issues? How do you build this resilience? The first thing is you must be aware, because some of us are in denial. It's difficult for us to navigate through the challenges that we're being faced with. Are you aware of what is going on, or you are in denial? Being in denial is not going to get you anywhere. Being in denial is going to escalate the issue. It's going to make it very difficult for you to cope. Are you aware? Are you actually aware of what is going on? Have you broken it down, or you are busy spiritualizing it? Benga said something earlier, which I would also like to stress tonight. Most of us, when we are faced with mental health issues, we would rather prefer to spiritualize it. I am not saying that everything does not have a spiritual base. I cannot say that. But what I'm saying is that there are times that speaking to a professional would actually change that situation. Sometimes you think the story is peculiar to you. By the time you hear other people's story, you will know that it's not peculiar. So rather than spiritualize issues, rather than make it look as if, okay, it's village people, there's nothing like village people when it comes to mental health issues. There are times that you need to address it spiritually, but you must know that getting the professional help will actually go a long way for you. Another thing, after you have to acknowledge that something is actually wrong, is you have to understand that it is not strange. The Bible says something about it being common to man. There is no challenge that you're being faced with that is not common to man. It's not peculiar to you. Life will happen to us all at some point or the other. The feeling of it being common could make it easy to cope with. If you know that, okay, I'm not the only one going through this, somebody at some point or the other has gone through this, will also help you cope. Positive mindset is another thing that will help you cope when you are faced with challenges that could test your resilience. You have to be positive. You have to have that positive mindset. What other thing do you need to do? Is to have the ability to solve problems. You must have problem solving skills. Let me run because of our time. What other coping mechanisms? Speak to professionals. You have to speak to professionals. Then look for what do I call it? A support system. Yes, I love that. Sometimes your support system can be your family members. Sometimes your support system can be your friends. Don't always say that I cannot speak to anybody. Nobody wants to hear me. You are not speaking to the right people, because I actually believe that there are people in your circle that actually love you genuinely. And if you speak to them, they can actually give you that support system that you need. Coping strategies. Some of us, music help us cope when we're faced with real issues. Just listening to music or watch and seeing a movie. Just look for something that could help you. I'm different from you, that we are all different. Look for something that can help you cope. There's actually something that can help you cope. Music, movies, because on a good day, I'm not somebody that would see movie because I just don't have the time. But when I am actually faced with challenges that are testing my resilience, I will just see a movie. Maybe one of the movies I've seen several times. So just look for something that can help you cope. And ultimately, I cannot but overemphasize the fact that you have to pray, because prayer changes things. Actually, prayer changes things. We cannot overemphasize it. But having said that, don't spiritualize things. When you need to seek physical support. When you need to seek physical support, don't spiritualize it. Seek physical support while you also pray, so that God can look for the right avenue to help you navigate in the situation of life. And finally, this evening, I would like to ask you, how do you intend to cope when the world throws you a lemon? Are you planning to make a lemonade out of it, or you are just trying to, or you are just going to accept defeat of whatever life has thrown to you? Don't accept defeat. Look for a way to cope, and God bless you. Thank you. That's my time.
Oh, thank you so much for that very insight. Okay, someone said I will make a lemonade. Thank you. Please feel free to share your emojis. I see claps coming up. Genesis, thank you for that. Feel free to, to acknowledge her for this. I think this was a very powerful one, very precise, very on point. Thank you so much, Bukola, for this. What's the word? For this charge. You've actually charged us up a lot. Understanding that, look, it's not enough to just keep quiet about it. Speak out. Speak out. A lot of times we tend to clam up a lot of things, not knowing that speaking out, you might be surprised that a lot of people are actually going through the same things. In fact, Nigerians, we are peculiar in that aspect. We are all bound by some of the challenges we are going through, and the more we speak about it, the easier it becomes to provide relevant solutions. Thank you so much again for that, Ms. Bukola Oladeji, and they'll be going right away into the second speaker. Today, we thought we'd just have the ladies first, as they say, ladies first. So, of course, our second panelist who will be speaking to us will be Sarah Shile, and she'll be speaking to us on culture, society, and coping mechanisms, understanding the Nigerian experience. I feel Bukola has kind of touched a bit on some of this area. So, it's just for us to just balance it out a bit. But we want to explore this now from the culture. Is it a cultural thing? For instance, now when we talk about culture, now there are some things that are peculiar to us based on the tradition. Because you're a Yoruba person, there are ways you're expected to greet, to prostrate. Likewise, because that has been wired down, another culture might not do that. Likewise, when it comes to resilience, understanding our experience from this, our culture has a way of also shaping us. There are a lot of things you will tolerate because, it's cultural. If I talk, they will complain. Let me not say anything. The society has also wired us in some ways too. So Sarah Shile is going to be talking to us about this and exploring the cultural norms, the societal expectations, and influence how this cultural norms and societal expectations influence resilience and docility, and what are the implications for our mental health. So I'm going to be reading our profile very, very quickly as well. Now, in a minute now, before she comes up. All right, I'm going to be reading Sarah Shile's profile now. Please confirm once you can see my screen. Okay, just a minute. Sorry, I think I'm having a bit of screen sharing challenge there. Okay. All right, I think I found it now. Okay, so Sarah Olugbenga Shile is the Director of Operations at Dynamical Consulting, where she oversees the firm's daily operations with a focus on excellence and innovation. With a background in business administration and over 12 years of experience in business and child education, she brings extensive expertise to her role. Her responsibilities include marketing management, where she develops strategies to enhance the firm's brand presence, staff management, leading recruitment, training and team development, client relations, ensuring client satisfaction and successful project execution, and financial oversight, collaborating on budgeting and aligning operations with strategic goals. Sarah's leadership ensures Dynamical Consulting delivers exceptional services while fostering a supportive environment for clients and staff. Her dedication to operational excellence and strategic growth solidifies her as a cornerstone of the firm's success. And this time around, Sarah is going to be discussing culture, society, and coping mechanisms, understanding the Nigerian experience. Sarah, you have 10 minutes. Please take it away. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to speak, and I'll be very brief. Like you said, we have just 10 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to be focusing on just culture, society, and coping mechanism, understanding the Nigerian reality, looking at what's happening in the country, especially. My focus is actually about us Nigerians here. Okay, when we talk about resilience has deep roots in Nigerians' history. From the colonial struggles to the economic challenges, Nigeria has been celebrated that we can adapt to any situation. I remember last year, 2023 January, when the fuel increased to 100 naira per liter. Then I was like, this price is just so high. The queue was something else. And so a particular day I was driving and I saw one filling station very close to my house. It was so scanty. The cars there were so scanty. And I was like, okay, let me buy fuel. Then when I wanted to buy fuel, they said it's now 150 naira. I was really upset. I just imagine, not knowing that a time will come, we'll begin to buy fuel for 1,000, whether 1,100 or 1,200. And I just hope that it's not going to increase more than this, if possible. Now, looking at resilience, resilience reflects strength, but if it's not properly examined, that's when to now develop to docility. And at that point, when we now become docile, that means we now accept anything. We're not seeking for change. We're not questioning anything. And that is where you see our society. Now, let me not talk about the society. That's why you now see our society. People are being bullied. Let me put it that way. Mostly women in particular, we often accept anything. Women are the ones that accept hardship, that accept domestic violence. Like I think about 2 years ago, a woman died of domestic violence. She's a gospel singer, an Igbo woman. I can't remember the exact name. And I'm very sure when she was still alive then, a lot of people have been telling her that the way your husband has been beating you, she had to try and leave the house. But you're just looking at it that, okay, what will people say? He has become docile. She doesn't have a choice. She doesn't have a say. What about our professional settings? These are people that wherever they work, they have bosses that will abuse them, bosses that will talk down on them, and they don't have a choice. From being resilient, that they're so strong, they can adapt to anything. They now became docile that they just accept anything that comes their way. So when we now talk about even unemployment, our young Nigerians too. You see when young Nigerians that are engineers, they just graduated, they have a lot of ideas and all that. They are going to all these companies to see one or two projects they can do for the corporate organization. By the time they start their own project now, before they give them, they'll start asking for like 70%. That are going to be 70, 30%. The organization will take 70%. They will now give 30% to the person that's going to run the idea, bring in the facilitators, bring all the instructors, do everything. So things like this is so discouraging. So it leads to anxiety, it leads to frustration, even depression. People start getting so depressed to the point that they can't even do anything anymore. So now I want to get to the level that how can we cope and what can we do to make this situation not too perfect like that, but at least to still compare ourselves to the Western world, because there's some things that are happening right here. It cannot happen in the Western world. So what can we do? We have a lot of people up there that we can speak to. We should just encourage individuals that are up there that, okay, let's just see resilience as a stepping stone for growth. And not it shouldn't be an excuse for stagnation. We should not just be stagnant. We should see that, okay, we're resilient, we can adapt. At the same time, let us try and work towards getting better in our society. And how can we do this? By engaging our leaders. We have a lot of people that know people up there. We have to start speaking to them and explaining how the situation are. Of course, they know, but we need people to still help us talk to them. Then secondly, we also have to say we can create awareness to just like what we are doing at the Dynamical Consulting. We create awareness to organize monthly webinars for people to know what is happening. And creating this awareness too, before you know it, it will get to that level too. They're just trying to just see how we can try and fix that mental health support into workplaces, into schools, into organizations, just to make sure that everything goes on well in our country. Then what I'll just say again, resilience is the strength, and let us move from endurance to transformation, which you see, how can we transform the society? How can we transform our culture? How can we transform ourselves? Because we have to also start with ourselves, just like Ms. Bukola said earlier. It also depends on our mindset. If our mindset is wrong, of course, everything about ourselves will be wrong. So we also have to see how we can transform ourselves before we can now start speaking to people. So at this point, let's just ensure that we just try and reach out to people and see how the country can get better, especially Nigerians. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. Very, very precise. I think I prefer it that way because I was already looking at my time. It's already 7:36. ordinarily we should already be closing out on the panel sessions gradually. So I'm glad you gave us a very precise one there. And yes, a key takeaway for me there was, you know, the reality and how we adjust so easily. Just to add a bit of thing, I mean, somehow fuel seems to be a major indices for us as a nation, petrol. And I remember in particular instance, I mean, you didn't spend so much time, so I can use a little of your time to just buttress on this point. I remember sometime in 2014, precisely. In fact, what even made me remember, recently Google, my Google Photos brought a very old picture from 2014, 10 years ago. And what happened that they were traveling to Benin for a wedding, you know, and that morning there was a bit of fuel scarcity in Nigeria at that point. So I went to queue very early. You know, I left from very early, like 4:30 to go and join the queue. And I joined the queue. And at the end of everything, when I bought, I mean, I was on that queue till almost like 8, 9 a.m. I bought fuel. I filled my tank, my car tank. In fact, there was literally nothing in the car before I got to the police station. And I filled 2 big jerry cans, 25-liter, that's about 50 liters. And everything, I think fuel then was 97 naira per liter. I went to buy an NNPC filling station. Everything I spent was about less than 10,000, about 9,600 or thereabouts. And I go and I was telling my wife that, wow, I just spent almost 10,000 naira on fuel. It was like, wow. And technically, I bought almost 100 liters of fuel. Well, filling my car tank and filling those 2 big jerry cans. And I felt 100 liters of fuel for almost 10,000 naira. Little did I know that 10 years down the line, we'll be spending 10 times of that amount. Now, that's that 10,000 naira I bought then, it was even less than 10,000 naira that filled my car tank, that filled 2 jerry cans, 2 30-liter jerry cans, would not even buy me 10 liters today. And I'm like, wow. And yet we are Nigerians and we've taken it to that level. And that's why some will say again, like I said earlier on, that if this fuel gets to 2,000 per liter, we will still buy it. Who did us like this, really? And that's where we're going to be going to the next panel session, which will be anchored this time around by Olushola Ogidon. And it's going to be looking at the role of religion, that is balancing faith and mental health advocacy. I'm going to be reading Shola's citation very quickly now. And let me share that screen so we can all see it. Now, Pastor Olushola Ogidon is the president of Saints Establishment Center, a non-denominational Christian community dedicated to complementing local churches in raising believers through sound doctrine. A graduate of quantity surveying from the Federal University of Technology, Akure, he has served as quantity surveyor with the Ondo State Local Government Service Commission since 2010. Pastor Ogidon's passion for spiritual growth and leadership is evident in his roles, including president of the Christian Student Fellowship at FGC Idoani, president of the Federation of Colleges Excellence Christian Association, FECA, and hall pastor of the CCF 9FS at Futa. He also pastors the Power and Glory Tabernacle Akure. Through his work, Pastor Ogidon continues to inspire faith, foster spiritual maturity, and nurture a community of believers committed to living out the gospel. So Pastor Shola Ogidon is going to be addressing the role of religious beliefs in shaping perceptions of mental health, highlighting how faith-based communities can provide both support and challenges in navigating well-being. Pastor Shola Ogidon, please take it away. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Benga. Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much, Benga, for this opportunity. Right, without wasting any time, as he said, I'll be looking at the role of religion. Sorry, my video is not. My lighting here is poor.
It's fine.
All right. So we're looking at the role of religion, the role of religious beliefs in shaping perceptions of mental health. So, and what do I like? How faith-based communities can provide both support and challenges in navigate mental well-being. Now, in looking at the role of religious beliefs in shaping perception of mental health, I want us to look at it I want to read out the two or three reports that will help us to see how religious beliefs, how religious organization, how the concept of religion actually shapes people's perception of mental health, how people see, mental health. Now, when you're talking about perception, perceptions around mental health, a number of perceptions, like one we have is stigma, you have shame, you have fear, you have social, you can even have social distancing as a perception. So when people hear, when that issue of mental health comes to you, one of the things that comes is stigma, is shame. If somebody has a family member that has mental health issue, there's a tendency to be ashamed about it. So a lot of factors create our perception of mental health, but religion is one of them. And so I want us to just read out a few reports that will show us how religious belief actually shape people's perception about mental health. Now, according to a 2014 study by Lifeway Research, it says 48% of evangelical, fundamentalist, or born-again Christians believe that prayer and Bible study alone can overcome serious mental illness. Now, you get that. Now, their own perception is that just prayer and Bible study alone is sufficient to take care of, mental issues. Then there's a mental, similarly, mental health in Islamic countries is viewed from a spiritual point of view. Also, a 2019 study on mental health in the Middle East found that over 65% of respondents believed that mental illness was a test from God. You can imagine, where people perceive mental illness as something that God is using to test their faith, something that is God is using to test how resilient they are actually. And there's also a report from Hinduism which views mental health through a spiritual and holistic approach, emphasizing karma and spiritual purity, cause and effect. So for some people, when people are going through, mental stress, people are going through difficulties, people are going through issues that are giving them, a mental breakdown, they see it as is actually an issue of cause and effect. And then for some people, it's as spiritual purity. Maybe people are not, that's from the Hinduism view, that people are not, when they are not committed to spiritual philosophy sufficiently, then they see it from that angle. Now, the implication of these perspectives is that people tend to avoid treatment and seek religious aid. So rather than actually, opening up, looking for treatment from experts and therapies, they actually go for spiritual and religious aid. Now they consider faith-based intervention more credible and prioritize them, over actual treatment. And that has affected how, people have been able to undo that area, that aspect of ensuring a sound, mental health. So now that being said, I want us to look at the main factors that determine how a person's beliefs affect their mental well-being. Now, there are some factors that determines, how a person's religious belief is going to affect the person's mental well-being, whether it's going to aid the person mentally or is actually be a retarding force, in the person's life. Now, I have here is that, I have three factors here. Now, the first is that the first factor is how they live their beliefs. Now, what does that mean? Now, when somebody holds a certain set of beliefs, but lives contrary to those beliefs, such a person is more likely to develop mental problems. Now, you believe that this is right. You believe that you are not supposed to be doing this. You believe this is how you're supposed to live your life. That's your religion. That's your belief. But you're actually living contrary to those beliefs. Now, such a person is more likely going to have mental health problem now, because in that you will see guilt. Guilt is going to be involved, because you believe your life should be this way, but you are living contrary to that. So when people have beliefs and their life is not consistent with their beliefs, they tend to have more mental health. But on the other side, those people who fully live according to their belief, you see that they have greater chance of having a more sound mental health. Now, the second factor is, what is the motivation for participating in that religion? Why is the person going to? Now, somebody is a Christian, somebody is a Muslim. Now, what is the motivation for that? Now, if a person goes to church because the person wants to be seen by others, or the person wants to make business connections, or because they are worried that others will judge them, those are extrinsic motivations, meaning that it's not because they derive joy in doing that. A child, if, say for instance, a child who is of a different religious, or let me say rather, prefers a different religious affiliation, but the parents are committed to a particular religious affiliation, but so because the child doesn't want to have issues with the parents, so the child chooses to be aligned with the parents' religious position. Now, such a child now is likely going to have issues now, because the motivation is not from inside, it's actually from outside. So, but if people follow the doctrine of their religion because they love it and truly believe in it, or that was they have intrinsic motivation, it contributes highly to their mental well-being. So people will look. So the question is, what is the motivation for that religious belief? Why are you turning towards that line of religious belief? Now, these are things that actually have determined how religion is going to affect people's mental health. Now, the third one I have here is that how individuals use their religion to cope with their problem. Now, this is very important. How people use their religion to cope with their problem. Now, I wrote there, if people use their religion to passively accept their problems as God's will without trying to solve them. Now, there's a way you can, religion can make you to accept your problems as God's will. Is a more long, that's how God wants it to happen. Now, when people use their religion to passively accept their problems as God's will, instead of trying to solve those problems, or they blame God for all their problems and say it is because of God that all this is not happening, they are going to be those things is going to be very unproductive for their mental health. But if people see the other side of religion, take for example, one of the things religion does for us is that it provides social network. So when people take advantage of the social network, and then people are committed genuinely to things like meditative prayer, and all of those things, research has shown that these things help people to maintain their psychological health. So we don't want to, and that is, when we're talking about the issue of docility, because that is also a form of docility. We are going through challenges, we are going through problems, but we have accepted those things that it is God's will for us to go through them. Now, it is not going to be productive mentally in terms of mental health now for such a person. No, I want us to, my time is almost up, but I want to quickly do something now. Let me show us a few ways. How do faith-based organizations support mental health? How can faith-based organizations provide, assistance? What are the things we can do that can actually help, in improving, the mental health of people? Now, one of the things I have here is start the conversation. Now, one of the most important steps in addressing mental health is simply starting the conversation. People don't like to talk, around this. People feel uncomfortable, when you begin to raise the issue about conversation around mental health. That we've seen that, the more you do that, you are only allowing, giving more environment for stigma, to continue to try. But when we open conversation, when we talk around this, there's a way it helps, people to take charge of their mental health. And one of the ways by which this can be done is that address mental health in sermons. Pastors, imams, and all, whatever, should take time during sermons to acknowledge mental health struggles, from both the Bible and from both the Quran, perspectives on how the scriptures, how the Quran addresses issue around mental health can be discussed. And then, when that is done, there's a way it helps people. Then, you can also host workshops and panels, like that which you are doing. Churches, mosques can host workshops, host panels, that can address current health and wellness challenges from faith-based perspective. Health professionals that are Christians, that are, Muslim, can be invited to such panels, and they can talk about issues that borders on how, how people can, navigate their mental well-being. Then, you can also create space for sharing. Now, if we're going to truly support mental health, the church needs to be a safe place where individuals can feel. Whether it's a church, whether it's a mosque, people should be comfortable to share their struggles. People must be comfortable to say, okay, this is what I'm going through. These are the challenges I'm facing with my health. And then they are not afraid that those things are going to become, talking points, in the future. So that is very, very important. And then we can also, now this is also very important, partnership with mental health professionals. Partnership with mental health professionals. Spiritual care is essential. But there's also the place for the professional aspect of handling, helping people through therapy, to improve, on their mental health. So churches can play a significant role by partnering with licensed counselors or therapists who can offer the specialized care that some individuals need. Now, how can we do this? one of the ways we can do this is to build referral networks. What do I mean by referral networks? Now, as a pastor, as an imam, somebody comes to you, is having issue with mental health. After you have, of course, from either the Bible or the Quran, you have shown the person perspective, you have prayed with the person. Then you also know that there is a need to recommend this person, to somebody who is, who is a therapist that can also help the person. Now, so we can build a referral network, meaning that you've built relationship with professionals that when you find people that have issues like that, you can always refer them and say, okay, I know so person, go and meet this person. This person is going to help you further, in that. Then create opportunities for authentic connection. Now, I said it earlier that one of the things that religion provide, in helping people in their mental well-being is the provision of social network. So one of the ways we can do is that create opportunity for authentic connection. Let there be, opportunity for people to actually relate deeply. I think it was last week Sunday, in the youth in the church, where we are addressing an issue. There's this phrase people say, Shadura Ken Shami, and church. And then we're trying to see how, we can actually, deal with that, ideology that people can, beyond Sunday service, beyond midweek service, people can have, more, more fulfilling relationship. People can, go beyond, the 4 walls of the church and have relationships, that maybe that can get as far as to home or to work. Now, these things help people, in building robust, mental well-being. And then, now, to let me round up on this, that of course religion can also actually create some very deep, challenging environment, creating challenges for people's mental well-being. One of the areas is rigidity. When there is so much rigid thinking, over dependence on laws and rules, when there is emphasis on guilt and sin, when somebody is always, there's so much emphasis on guilt and sin, now such a person is not going to be balanced mentally. And then excessive reliance on ritual and prayer may delay seeking psychiatric help and consequently worsen, prognosis. So, I believe that by the time we begin to put some of these things and we develop them further, there's a way it can actually help, to balance, faith. As we are praying, as we are studying, we also see the aspect of, of mental health advocacy. Thank you. God bless you.
All right. Thank you so much, Olushola Ogidan, for that. Let's have the emojis coming up. Thank you so much. That was like, wow, there were a lot of key takeaways from that, especially because Nigerians, we are very spiritual people. It's one thing we cannot take away. We spiritualize everything. You don't even have to be born again. You don't have to be a staunch Christian or a staunch Muslim to be. We associate everything with, like you said earlier, it's spiritual. Things we're supposed to attend to and take care of, we equate it to as God wills. So I mean, like I was joking during our dry run yesterday. I said sometimes I feel like God is in heaven, and this is just imagine me being God right now. That God is just like this, looking at Nigerians and just shaking his head, especially when we bring some of our prayers to him, and he wonders, like, you have all these things already. But then that's on the lighter note, though. So thank you so much, Pastor Shola, for that. Looking at it from the spiritual perspective. And that takes us, we've actually overshot our time a bit, but that takes us into the last panel session now. And the last panelist. And of course, I'm bringing someone that is very special to me. I call him my daddy, Pastor Wale Akinyomi. First, I must appreciate you for even taking time to be here today. We're speaking not too long ago. Pastor Akinyomi was on a long trip today. Now, that few hours from now, he has to join a vigil, but yet he still said he was going to be here. So I appreciate you, sir, just like I appreciate every other of the panelists as well. And Pastor Wale Akinyomi is going to be talking about policy and advocacy, building support systems for mental health. Of course, where he's going to be focusing on the importance of mental health policies, grassroots advocacy, and organizational efforts in creating sustainable support for Nigerians. I'm going to be bringing Pastor Wale Akinyomi right away by reading his citation first. And of course, Pastor Wale Akinyomi is a visionary leader and entrepreneur with over 25 years of transforming Nigeria's entrepreneurial landscape. Born on September 18, 1958, he is the founder of Accent Entrepreneurship Development Initiative and the Multi-Skills Teenpreneurship Program, MSTP. empowering youths with vocational and entrepreneurial skills. Under his leadership, initiatives like the Accent Business Academy and cooperative financing platforms have equipped countless individuals and small businesses to thrive. A former chairman of NSA-ME Ondo State and vice chairman of the Institute of Strategic Management, he has championed small business growth and strategic leadership. Pastor Akinyomi's global impact includes collaborative projects in India, Rwanda, and the USA. His books include 151 plus small business ideas and See Money Everywhere, serve as practical guide for aspiring entrepreneurs. Through his programs and his teachings, Pastor Akinyomi inspires hope, fosters innovation, and promotes sustainable economic development, cementing his legacy as a transformative leader. Thank you very much for joining us, Pastor Akinyomi, and please, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, Benga. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, thank you so very much, and I'm very privileged to be here. I'd like to appreciate every of my previous presenters. I'll particularly also appreciate my pastor colleague, Pastor Ogidon. Thank you so very much for all that you have said. Now, I must confess I'm a bit disturbed in respect of the fact that for me the topic seems a little bit wieldy. And that might be because I have things that are burning in my mind. I have things that I have been, quite bothered about, and especially about the society. And so when I look at all of those, I find, for instance, we're looking at the issue of mental health. And before we know it, of course, we have gone into mental health, what is mental health, and all of those stuff by my sister. Then, of course, thank God for Sarah, who has also taken it from the cultural perspective, and Pastor Gidon too. Now, I just want to make some allusions very, very quickly, and I hope I may be able to substantiate more as the program goes on. First of all, you want me to go into policy, advocacy, and etc. Of course, a policy, is a deliberate plan of action that guides decisions and actions, typically establishing, what an organization, a government, or whatever wants. That is one. Then, of course, we are looking at those policies as interventions. And I know that interventions have to be deliberate. Interventions have to be strategic. And we also want to ask ourselves, who are the people that are going to be giving these interventions? Who are the people that are going to, be making these policies? Or who are the people who make these policies? I would like to refer to a data of the World Health Organization that indicates that a whooping over 20% of Nigerians, or perhaps we will say over 40 million Nigerians, are affected by one form of mental illness or the other. And I'm sure you'll agree with me that people who are mentally ill are not necessarily the ones that are naked on the streets, that are in asylums. No, there are several. As a matter of fact, not too long ago, I recall that the national advisor in charge of Nuhu Ribado specifically was mentioning that, look, several politicians, a high percentage of politicians in Nigeria have mental problems. Now, the truth is a very high percentage of Nigerians, in one way or the other, psychologically affected by poverty, by what we call poor educational background. But you see, I'd like to say that to a great extent, these things that we are fighting have become a way of life to us as Nigerians. They have become part of us as Nigerians. Nigerians, well, I won't say we will delay. Nigerians are actually very resilient, truly. Nigerians are very, very determined, truly. And that's why when Nigerians go outside the country, they do exceedingly well. And that's why Nigerians, when they sit for exams or and we compete at various levels, we excel. So evidently, a, Nigerians have what I can call um, uh, 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 a resilience factor, a factor that puts Nigerians at the top. We are not naturally Nigerians are not docile. Let me say the truth. That's what I believe. Naturally, we are not docile. Nigerians are determined. Nigerians are they are go-getters. But then situations have brought docility into Nigeria. And what are these situations? Situations that, for instance, we see ourselves as, look, people who can make it eventually. The church tells us that whatever be the case, you will make it. The church says, now unto him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly more than you can ask or think, according to the power that works in you, that you will get there. Hmm? And that power that works in you, of course, is the power of the knowledge of God. Are we getting it? So everybody who has a strong spiritual background believes that he can get there. You may not have gotten there now, but you will eventually get there. As a matter of fact, across the world, Nigerians are described as the happiest people in the world. Yet Nigerians are suffering. But let me tell you one thing. If you want to ask yourself, what makes Nigerians tick? It is because at one point or the other, every Nigerian believes that, look, today Enilo come, today it is Tinubu's turn. Tomorrow it can be my turn. If it is not my turn directly, it will be the turn of a member of my family or a friend of mine or whatever. So this is part of what keeps Nigerians going. And unfortunately, we also now, we have the tendency of believing that, whatever be the case, I will get my own. So when others are feeling low, you are telling them that, look, don't worry. When it gets to our turn, we will make it. And these are trends that define Nigerians. By the grace of God, for the past how many days now, I've been looking at a subject. I call it citizenship-based leadership. Citizenship-based leadership. You'll find out that if you are talking about good governance, what makes good governance elude us is because we do not have good citizens. Unfortunately, like I said, I may not be able to go into details on the medical perspectives of um, um, what do we call it now? Mental health. But then, like I said already, a lot of us, Nigerians are um, mentally derailed in at different levels and in different capacities. Let me say this very quickly. While there is medical mental health, right, there is social mental challenges. There are political mental challenges, spiritual mental challenges. We have, brought some things into spirituality that make us just want to go on. And, people say, they are, what do they call them now? They are, they are, what do we call them now? We call them prosperity preachers. People who are prosperity preachers, they want to tell you that you will make it under any situation or whatever, and you also believe. But then, are you doing the right things? Are you doing what exactly God expects you to be? He says, be ye holy as I'm holy. God says, talks about governance. Are you praying for the government? Do you believe in governance? Do you believe in the present approach that the government is using? Unfortunately, the government that is supposed to be making advocacy itself is full of politicians who are, who are themselves not straight. So we have a juxtaposition of problems, of challenges that it would take, a return to the beginning for us to spill over. I don't know. I think my time is up. Is my time up?
Yeah. Well, we can do an extra 1 minute, sir.
No. Okay. Well, let me just say this: that I believe we all need to go back to the basics. If we all decide to go back to the basics, then we'll begin to rearrange. Then of course our thinking will be, regenerated. We ourselves will become regenerated persons. But to a great extent, even our culture permits what we're talking about. I was asking myself, what is bribery? And you discover that all this shawakuduru. Then in Yoruba language, it's permitted, to do some things, and you call it owe, but kashati lowo ni bo yẹn ba bìkan wá bí ò gba bìkan wá owó àtowó olówó àtowó ẹni kówó má ṣáàtì wọn wà ní. So all of this, when we put them all together, we discover that look, we have things that we need to review our thinking, and we need to get back to the basics. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much for that, Pastor Akinyomi. Thank you. Please let's get the emojis up here. Let's get the emojis coming. Thank you so much, sir, for putting all together for us, looking at it from the angle of policy and advocacy towards sustaining or helping our mental health. Thank you so much, Pastor Akinyomi, for your time. Of course, just we're going to go into panel discussions very quickly. Just a few questions. Of course, just wrapping it up again. Thank you again, Bukola Oladeji, for talking about the price of resilience and looking at a psychological perspective on endurance. Of course, thank you, Sarah Shile, for talking about the culture, society, and coping mechanisms, understanding Nigerian experience. And of course, thank you, Pastor Shilal, for talking about the role of religion, balancing faith and mental health advocacy. And finally, Pastor Akinyomi talking about policy and advocacy, building support systems for mental health. Now we're going right away into panel discussion. So this time around, any of us can speak. And meanwhile, I see there have been a lot of comments. Let me just quickly pick one or two. I see people have been typing in the comment section. Oh, I thought I saw. Okay, yeah. I saw some very pertinent points that were made. I'm trying to look for them. Okay. I see there was one in particular that jumped at me. Okay, prayers are very therapeutic. Okay, Anita Oloko says prayers are very therapeutic. I totally agree. I they are. All right. Okay, yes. Okay, I see the minister. Yeah, I think the name Mrs. Sarah Shile was trying to mention earlier was Minister Osinachi, who died last year. Yeah, that's correct. Okay, Chinemere Majogu says religion provides a different approach to our mental well-being. And when it is paired with wholesome psychological attention and therapy, a holistic mental health cannot be far-fetched. I think that's powerful. Thank you so much. I see another one here. Okay, same from also Chinemerem. Says some churches nowadays are implementing that. I was at, I don't want to, should I call, is that, okay, let's call you, put the name already there. I was at Glory Tabernacle RCC Jijako 3 weeks ago and was met with such lecture. Every sermon was used to address mental health in contemporary society. Really great service, and I recommend very much. Thank you. I think that's drawing from what Shola Gideon talked about churches, spiritual and religious houses, mosques, and all that, focusing on this area as well. Of course, Anita Oloko says, you are so right, Mr. Olushola. Mental health issues should not only be addressed religiously, but also beyond the four walls of the church. Thank you very much. Enjoyed every bit of it. Okay, I see another comment. I see there are lots of others. I'm just looking for the ones that, okay, thank you so much, everyone, for your comments on the intervention. So we'll be going right into the panel session this time. And the first question I'm going to be throwing away, I'm throwing to my panelists. Of course, anyone can speak. Not more than 1 minute, please, preferably. And the question here is that how can we differentiate healthy resilience from harmful endurance, especially in Nigeria's challenging context? How can we differentiate healthy resilience from harmful endurance? I like the way you put it there. Healthy resilience on one side, then harmful. And in other words, that means endurance can become harmful. So how do we know where we draw the line there, especially in Nigeria's challenging context? Just 1 minute. Anybody can speak. Shola, you can go. Bukola, Sarah, Pastor Wale, Akinyom, any of you can take it. How do we differentiate that? Healthy resilience, harmful endurance. Where do we draw the line? Where's the difference? You have the floor. Anybody have the floor, please? We're talking about the panelist exchanges at this point.
Well, I believe one of the way the line is,
okay,
what's the impact of your resilience on people around you? If I'm resilient and I'm still, adding positively to people around me. Take for instance, as a husband, I'm resilient, and in my resilience, I'm still able to relate with my wife as I should. I'm still handling my children as I should. Then that's healthy. But the moment it comes to, you begin to see signs of aggression, you say you are resilient, but it's the effect of it is negative on those around you. That's no longer healthy. That's no longer healthy. It's becoming something else. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think that was spot on. So basically, what is the effect? If you're seeing the effect positively, then it's positive. Then it's, it's helpful. But then when it's no longer, showing that, you now begin to take it out on people around you. And I think I've been a victim of that. I'm not going to cite a particular instance, but recently, a couple of months ago, I got to a point where I was literally becoming paranoid, and it was beginning to affect everyone around me. I guess that's when harmful endurance comes. You're trying to be strong, but then you get too strong for too long, and then you begin to, lose yourself, basically. Thank you so much for that. I don't know if there are any other additions to that. Maybe Bukola wants to add something, or Sarah or Pastor Kinyomi wants to just throw a bit of light on that. But I think Shola has done justice to that already, though, because of our time. But do we have any other thoughts from any of our panelists on that particular question? How does how do we differentiate healthy resilience from harmful endurance? I think Bukola wanted to say something there.
Yes, I would like to add what Shola said. He has actually said what I want to say, but I would like to add to it by saying that when there is a threat to life, we women, we tend to endure some domestic violence in the name of I'm enduring, or I'm managing my home, and there's a threat to life. Please don't negotiate. Don't even wait till it becomes a threat to life, because sometimes in the name of let me wait till it's a threat to life, you are enduring nonsense. When it is harmful, that's why you need to seek counsel. Don't hesitate to seek counsel, so that you will know when to differentiate between when it's becoming harmful and when you're actually enduring. I just thought I had that.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that, Bukola. I really appreciate that. All right, I think that takes us to, now I'm going to go to some individual questions there. Let's look at this very quickly. Of course, I'll start with you again, Bukola. I'll start with you. You started first, so let's just take you first again, originally. Now, you spoke about the mental toll of resilience, when we're talking about the price of resilience. So what are some signs, that resilience has turned into unhealthy endurance? I think you kind of already answered that in a way. But what are those signs? And I think those are signs maybe that Shola already mentioned, where you begin to get aggressive. Now, it has no longer, your resilience has now become unhealthy endurance, because it's changing you. You're becoming something else. I don't know if you want to add anything to that. Then, of course, Sarah, I will need you to also give me a bit of insight into how cultural factors can reinforce these behaviors, this unhealthy endurance. So let's go. Bukola, I don't know if you want to say anything more to what you've said.
Okay, so signs that your endurance is becoming harmful, it's becoming unhealthy. Number one, you become very snappy. You can't tolerate anything, every little thing, even people that didn't offend you, that do not offend you, you just snap at them. You transfer aggression unnecessarily. These are part of the signs that shows that you are going through a lot and you are channeling it the wrong way instead of seeking help, instead of getting the necessary help. Just to mention a few because of our time.
Thank you so much. Okay, so Sarah, I want you to also tell me something in terms of, just to buttress what Bukola has said, in terms of how does the cultural background influence those kind of behaviors? How would you say cultural background actually affects, makes people become that person they are not supposed to be?
There's number one, because most of these people, because of their, how will I put it, because of their faith in God, they'll just keep relying on God. In fact, there's nothing wrong with prayer. There's nothing wrong in going to church, communicating with people, praying, but still seek for spiritual help. And how the culture comes into most of these our leaders in church, what they do is that instead of them to communicate with people of what they are going through, they rather keep it to themselves. Just like Bukola said earlier, they want to expose themselves and put it that way. They'll feel, if I tell this other person about what is happening to me, maybe it will be a shameful thing on my part, or maybe they'll look down on me, or let me just keep enduring to just, maybe most of them are workers in church. I just like putting church because that's what's really happening. We just have to be very, very realistic. This is what's really happening in most churches. People be going through a lot of things, but they can't speak out because they're workers in church, they're church leaders, and what will people say? Then in culture too, the kind of family I came from, we don't go through divorce. The kind of family I came from, my dad used to beat my mom. Now my mom endured, so why can't I endure? Even most of them go to their parents will be telling them, just endure, you'll be fine. And they'll be going down. But once you get to that point that your life is being threatened, you have to run. You just have to. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that. So Sarah, of course, Bukola and Sarah, for those you guys brought it from the feminist point of view, if I should say. Okay, now let's look at you. Now, Sarah, you take it away from here now. So how do cultural norms in Nigeria affect individuals' ability to seek help for mental? Okay, I think you just answered that, so we can just skip that. Basically, the cultural norms we're referring to here talks about culture across different divides, from the church, from the household, from the relationship, from everywhere you find yourself, your society and all those things. They always find a way to influence your reaction or your behavior in how you react towards seeking mental health help for mental health challenges. We tend to spiritualize things a lot here. And I think Anshola will also need you to help me weigh in on that too, on this point, how religion can complement or challenge these norms. Again, I think you mentioned some of it earlier on, but maybe you want to just throw one or two extra things into it. Thank you.
You want me to go or?
Okay. Yeah, you can go again if you want to add something to it. Yeah, I thought you had already done, but it's fine. Please go ahead.
Okay, we're just looking at culture. Let me just focus on culture again, because most of our how will I put it? Most of our leaders, most of our elderly people, what they do that they can't seek help because they feel it's a sign of weakness to them. So they believe if they are seeking help, they mean to them they feel they are not man enough to handle themselves or to handle the situation themselves. Or some of them, they even look at it as pride. That pride will allow them to come down to their level and knowing that okay, they have a situation that needs help. I think that's all for now.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so Shola, let's have you add to that.
Okay. Well, let me just add this, that you see, spirituality does not take away the fact that somebody can be exposed to mental health issues. Spiritual people get sick, as in physically. Spiritual people that are practicing religion get to have cancer, get to have all kind of things. So that's to show that these things does not exempt the fact that you are a religious person. Does not mean that you are not exposed. You can't be exposed to certain things. So that already should take care of some issues that anybody can be affected by these things. So there, and that's why there's even a push, a need for people to share their experiences. People that have passed through such challenges, that have they've been helped out of those things. When such people now come and say, this is what I've been through, I faced this challenge, and this was how I went through it, and then I came through it. There's a way it breaks that stigma. There's a way it destroys that, and then you can now see more people coming up and say, okay, so this thing is not really an issue. So if I'm going through this kind of thing, then I don't see it as a big deal. I don't see it as something I should be ashamed about. I can come out as, okay, this is what I'm going through. Can somebody help me? And all that. So I think that is also going to help, in taking care of that. Thank you. Hello.
I was muted.
Can
All right. Thank you. Sorry, I was muted. I forgot I was just talking on. Thanks again for that, Shola. I really appreciate that. So I was going to ask anyway, but then if you feel you've touched on that, we might just skip it. I was going to say, what role can faith-based communities play in encouraging people to prioritize mental health while maintaining spiritual strength? Now, this time around, how do we ensure that no side is actually lost? You're paying attention to your mental health, and at the same time, you're still maintaining your spiritual health without anyone suffering at the same time. Then, of course, Pastor Akinyomi will support us with what are the need for the supportive policies. But let's hear you first time, Shola. Thank you.
I think one of the ways, like I said earlier, when we begin to address mental health issues in sermons, when pastors begin to talk about it, when imams begin to talk about these things, address issues, there's a way it helps. At least people begin to see that, okay, there are other ways that these things can, actually be attended to, and then when religious leaders, now one of the things that is key is the issue of rest. The issue of rest. How do we, when we even look at many of our, our leaders, look at, religious circle, you know that many of our leaders are working, they are workaholics. So one of the things we don't really see is that culture of rest, encouraging people to have, have space for rest, encouraging people to put rest as part, of their daily routine, encouraging people to, be involved in things like exercises, in area of nutrition, and all of those things. We don't really see much of these things, but when you begin to see things like that coming from the pulpit, things like that coming from, the sermon, there's a way it wakes people up and say, okay, so you mean that beyond my prayer, beyond my fasting, there's, my health, my nutrition, what I eat is also very important. How I rest is also very important. There's a way, because religious leaders have a lot of influence, over people. It's very strong. So when people begin to see this thing coming from, those, they think they only fast and pray. Some people don't even believe, some people believe that religious leaders don't even go to the toilet. That's the way we see them. But when you see that, okay, so this men to go through stress, and then they have to, do this thing, there's a way it begin to reshape on our mentality about these things. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I like the fact that some people actually believe religious that our pastors don't even go to the toilet. They feel they are and that's the reality. We place so much faith in these people, forgetting that they are also human beings. And that's why sometimes when we see when politicians misbehave, nobody takes it serious. More like we expect them to misbehave. But when a pastor or an imam or a spiritual leader misbehaves, so everybody shouts because they're like, no, we kind of, expect higher standards from them. But I feel the higher standards should actually be both ways. No matter what level of leadership you are, spiritual leadership, secular leadership, the higher standards should be expected of you. So I totally love what you just said here. Thank you. So they have great influence, religious leaders especially. I see a lot of comments. I'm going to be taking them in a bit, but let me quickly hear what Pastor Akinyomi wants to add to this. So yes, Pastor Akinyomi, can you help us see how does this tie what Shola has said now? How does this tie into the need for supportive policy? Help us tie this into the need for supportive policies towards these areas that we can prioritize our mental health while still maintaining spiritual strength. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Benga. First of all, I'd like to appreciate Shola with those parting words that he said. There's no doubt about it that spiritual leaders have a lot of influence on their flocks. And there's no doubt about it also that whatever they do, whether wrong or right, also influences their flocks. Because we have experienced, what some spiritual leaders have done. You can imagine people going to the extent of eating grass just because the spiritual leader said you eat grass. We have experienced people going into all forms of idolatry in quotes now because the spiritual leader guided them towards that path. So you see people, because whether we like it or not, spirituality can be like opium that gets in, religion rather can be like an opium that gets into the veins of people and then makes them to do things that they would ordinarily not want to do. So if we have spiritual leaders who are right, then we'll definitely be on the right path. But of course, if we have spiritual leaders who engage more or less in boastings, you find spiritual leaders telling you they cannot be ill. I cannot be sick. If somebody says he cannot be sick, then the members of the flock begin to find it difficult to tell him that he's not feeling well. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. If you find a spiritual leader who keeps engaging in boastings, then they are intimidating their spiritual and their flocks, and then of course it affects those flocks. But again, whether we like it or not, there is a great deal of misdemeanor with a lot of our spiritual leaders, as we also have in the life of people in government. We have we have people in government being encouraged by this. As a matter of fact, people in government have spiritual contractors, and these are the people who they engage to help them to help them chart a path in whatever they feel they are doing. And today, I'd like to say that it makes advocacy for good governance difficult. It makes advocacy for correct mental health difficult because I'll get back to our initial talk that it's not until you are in an asylum or whatever that you are mentally a mental misfit. Too many people are mental misfits. You drive on the opposite side of the road, you are a mental misfit.
Yeah.
You refuse to adhere to simple instructions even in the church. You have to sit somewhere and you refuse. You are a misfit of some sort, and it means that you are affected in one way or the other. So it's a great it's a great effort that is needed, and we only need I go by the scriptural basis that says one will chase 1,000, two will chase 10,000. So if, for instance, we have people who are in a position to rightly influence, then and that's where discipleship and mentoring comes into place. If you have one, two, three, the Bible says, one will chase 1,000, then two will chase 10,000. Then we can through that begin to redeem the society, and we can also begin to redeem our health. There is too much of pretense in the lives of a lot of us. And pretense comes from cultural perspectives, from spiritual perspectives. I pray that would get help through
All
help.
right. Thank you
Thank you
so
very
much, sir. So just to add a bit to that too, sir. I mean, finally, I would also like to ask what grassroots actions now, because basically from some of what you've said, sir, means we have to go back to the foundation, to the basics. So what grassroots actions or policies could immediately help Nigeria, I mean, more like an SOS right now, that can help Nigerians navigate mental health challenges more effectively? What immediate, grassroots actions, nothing too major, too bogus, but quick wins, basically, low-hanging fruits, if we should say, that can help, us
You,
navigate mental health challenges more
yeah,
effectively.
you will recall that I deliberately have abstained from going deep into mental health because I'm not a mental health practitioner.
Yes.
So I've decided to see mental health from the way we live our lives, right?
Mm.
And the people that we are asking, I mean, we're talking about, you're talking about going to the grassroots. Of course, people who have the right perspective need to, as a matter of fact, we need to begin to to mobilize for good governance in this country, for
Yeah.
Do I say right mental health perspectives, so that we begin to talk to ourselves at various levels. Let people know that, look, it's not until you're on the street that you have a mental challenge. Of course, some of
Yeah.
them are psychological, some of them are poverty driven, some of them are, I mean, societal driven. I mean, some of them are cultural also in nature. But then, who begins to review all of these things? There are some of them that are already innate in Nigerians that, well, they have become, I mean, the hallmark of Nigerians. Well, of course, every society has its own. But then the ones I'm concerned about are the ones that do not act to us as good citizens,
Yeah.
because that is the one that will eventually collapse this country. I pray that we get ourselves together in respect of that. Thank you very much.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Pastor Kiyomi, for that. So I'll just take some comments again. Some comments have flowed in for a while now. Okay, I see your point. Bukola Oladiji said, whatever is a threat to your life is harmful. That's where to draw the line. Very key. Okay, Genesis said, I'm learning a lot. Most of us have been going through harmful endurance, and we don't even realize it at all. Deep. Chinemerem says, I think a part of our inner minds knows when it's harmful endurance. Let us listen to our inner minds. Let us self-assess and evaluate the coping mechanism during trying times. So powerful. Genesis says, you are right. Self-assess and awareness has a major role in that. Okay, Chinemerem says, I think our Nigerian culture glorifies harmful endurance. And with long suffering being one of the fruits of the Holy Spirit. Okay, I like this. We as a very religious people here find it difficult to find healthy coping styles during trying times, as we always feel it is the will of the divine. All right, Bukola also says here, there are times that right in the church, people are exposed to mental health issues due to unhealthy comparisons and expectations. Okay, Genesis says that's such an important point. I think there is a balance to be found. While long suffering as a virtue encourages resilience, it's also important to recognize that seeking help or adopting healthy coping mechanisms doesn't mean we are rejecting faith. It means we are stewarding our mental and emotional health, which is also a gift from the divine. Powerful, powerful. Thank you, Genesis. Genesis also says most times people are scared because of how their leaders always open things up when preaching or talking to the congregation. All right, how do we handle it? That's Bukola. Now, how do we handle it when issues in the church and how they are managed, especially by the leaders, are the reasons why some people go through mental health issues? Now, that's a challenge. I think that question should be answered. How do we handle it? Because please, let's feel free to also drop our questions here. Interestingly, Bukola is a panelist, but that's also a question. I don't know if it's a rhetorical question, but then I also expect we can provide some answers to that. Maybe any of the panelists or even from the audience to feel free to weigh in. Let's see if there are some answers there. I mean, Chinemerem says, yes, religious leaders have great influence, and them asking followers to take care of their mental health is going to be very helpful. All right, Mrs. Mabioyaku says, very true. People worship their religious leaders than God. Okay, that's a very strong point too. Genesis says, this is when people tend to seek help somewhere else, and most people end up seeking it at the wrong places. That makes their mental health even worse. All right, Cynthia Mabiaku says, Chidem, that is correct. The spiritual leaders need to be held more accountable for their flocks of followers. Anita Oloko says, so true. Religious leaders play a great role. Most people can't even express how they feel because of how much that's been condemned in the church. I don't want it to look like it's just church. I don't know if it's the same thing in the mosque. I don't know, but let's just, I mean, maybe probably look at it from the spiritual houses generally. Most people put so much faith in their religious leaders. Imagine a man of God not understanding what you're going through, then who will? So instead of seeking help elsewhere, they keep it to themselves, caging in their emotions. Okay, Cynthia says, Nigerian spiritual leaders boast too much. And the Bible says we should not be boastful. I totally agree. And Genesis now asks a question, who exactly will hold them accountable? All right, Anita says, we can only hope in coming years that this issue is resolved. Cynthia says, that is the problem. There has to be policies put in place to curb the excesses. I totally agree with that. And I try to take a parallel from Rwanda, what Paul Kagame, interestingly, Pastor Akinyomi is very, very familiar with Rwanda, having worked, you know, at a very high level there for some years too. And it's one of the things I really admire that Paul Kagame did, especially with the religious houses. I'm not trying to, you know, bring any debate into this, but the truth is that sometimes it's high time we begin to hold, and not only our spiritual, even our political leaders too. We need to start holding them more accountable because the higher standards should be expected from them. Now, a question for Genesis that from Mrs. Mabiako says, Genesis, do you know that in diaspora, there is a limit to what you can say and do as a pastor? Interesting. Genesis says, while we hope, it is also good for us to direct and show people that there are better ways to seek help and they don't need to be scared opening up. Chinemerem says, again, let's stop applauding the ad guy, ad girl life. Let's encourage people to speak up. Very deep. Many times, like I said earlier, we try to be too strong for too long. And before you know what, you become a monster to yourself, and you become a shadow of yourself, rather. You know, people should begin to speak up. In the diaspora, your church is involved in community service with the intention of getting the followers to open up. But Genesis said, but are scared to open up because of the fear of being judged the wrong way. Chinemerem says, being kinder to random people can get them to unpack. I agree with you. The fact that even as we, as the people, are also our own enemies. Genesis says, bam. Wow. This is explosive. I think this is probably the best webinar we've had so far. I love the engagements. I love the fact that people are speaking their minds. We are unpacking. It's needed. I think these are conversations we need to begin to have. Not even only as small forums like this, but we need to even begin to take this up there. Let's begin to speak about these things and see that, look, we can't continue to just stomach and endure before it becomes harmful endurance, which is what it likely becomes eventually. So I don't know if there are any questions. Let me just see one of the questions. I think I want to go back to the question Bukola asked at some point there and see if anybody wants to address it. Sorry. That was a question of, sorry, I'm trying to scroll very fast there. Okay, there's a question. Yes. It says, how do we handle it when issues in the church and how they are managed, especially by the leaders, are the reasons why some people go through mental health issues? I think I would want either Pastor Shola Ogido or Pastor Wale Akinyomi to answer this. Any of you? I mean, maybe. Shola, you want to try? You want to answer this one? I think Pastor Akinyomi has given us some very, very powerful points earlier. Let's hear your particular question. Okay, Bukola, you raised the hand. Okay, let's allow you speak then. Maybe you can buttress it a bit or maybe address it too. Then maybe I can weigh in. Thank you.
All right, Bina, thank you. I personally faced that. And in fact, that's the reason why I do what I do. It was at that point in the process of getting healing for what I went through in the church I got certified as a mental health practitioner. And somebody came to my office this week on Monday to express a similar thing. And because I have gone through it, I was able to help her, I was able to provide some professional help that could help her stabilize and, sometimes the way our leaders, we need to begin to hold them. It's very important that we should hold them accountable, but you need to be careful because they are spiritual leaders. The truth is, there's nobody that should be too big to be accountable to somebody. I am accountable to somebody. Every spiritual leader should be accountable to somebody. You should not see yourself as that highest authority to the point that there's a place that I attended, they will call it spiritual authority. In other words, their opinion is final, whether what they're doing is nonsense. Excuse me. whether what they're doing is nonsense or not. They just see it as their highest authority. Now, what I would advise that you do is don't let anybody shut you down when it has to do with your mental health. If it is affecting you, your placenta is not placed there, walk away. If it is beginning to cause some sleepless nights, walk away. Sometimes you shouldn't, in the name of what people will say, in the name of, okay, you are a minister there, you are there. I mean, these issues are becoming too much, and we just have to deal with it. Walk away. Even no matter the number of years that you have spent in that church, if it is causing you sleepless night, if you have to talk about the pastor and you cannot challenge him, you are not actually challenging him. You are trying to solve a situation. If it's becoming too difficult for you to express how you feel because of being judged or being stigmatized, please walk away. Your placenta is not in anywhere. Walk away.
So much. Walk away if you need to, when you need to, because if you die, life will continue. Life goes on. I mean, the Osinachi's case is very sad. Thank God somebody mentioned that name. I think, okay, it was Mrs. Sarah Shileda mentioned it earlier on. You know, I mean, that was a needless, some needless things. And the funny thing is that those who actually push you to that wall, we move on. They will continue to live. Like someone will say, like, if you allow yourself to get killed, the person that killed you or caused you to be killed will repent and ask God for forgiveness, and God will forgive that person. But you are gone and you're gone. So yes, I totally agree with you. I don't know if Shola Gideon wants to add something to that point, even as we begin to close.
Yes.
Sorry, is Shola Gideon still here? Pastor Shola Gideon, are you still around?
Well, if
Okay,
Shola is not,
please, let's have you, sir. Thank you.
yes, if Shola is not there, I'd like to support Bukola. Walk away. However, there must be a process of walking away. You must seek help somewhere. And I plead with us, because it's also very important to seek help in the right places.
Yeah.
Of course, thank God, Buki is a certified mental health practitioner. And of course, we have several mental health practitioners now who are also spiritual. I dare want to say that your pastor may not be the most spiritual person. And then your pastor might have his own areas of strength.
Yeah.
So why don't you just seek help elsewhere in respect of that particular challenge that you have, of which your pastor may not be a master. You see, whether we like it or not, there's a tendency for pastors, and we're talking about pastors here because I can see most people on the panel are Christians anyway. So I don't know what happens in the mosque, so I don't want to begin to talk about the mosque. But you see, you find cases where people who are pastoring, become jack of all trades, master of all. And some don't even defer to, either their members, church members, or even other pastors who are specialized. There's specialization for every aspect of life. And it's not possible that any human being, will be a specialist in everything. So seek help. Seek spiritual help. Seek mental health. Help rather. And seek it where it's right. That's what I would want to add. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for that. All right, I'll take a few more comments before we go into question and answer. I don't know if anybody has questions. If you do, you could raise your hand. Or if you want to speak, we can just give you a minute or they're about to say something. Anybody from the audience? Our panelists have done fantastically well. They've done a lot of justice. Maybe you want to say, okay, Genesis, I see your hand. But before you do that, I'm just going to quickly read a few comments here. Okay, I see that, okay, a lot of comments have actually come in after again. Ooh. Okay. Let me just okay. Angela said, okay, Genesis said, I'm really glad I attended this webinar. Thank you so much. Yeah, we are glad. I'm also glad I attended this webinar too. Angela Ife Bunadu says, a lot of people suffer in silence because we as people are judging nature, and a lot of spiritual leaders use the Bible to treat everything. Sometimes all the person needs is your humanity. That's deep. That's deep. And Chinemerem says, and webinars like this should be pushed further. More people need to see these kinds of meetings. It's part of the solution. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, Cynthia Mabiaku says, mental health is key, and the sooner that we as a people begin to take it seriously. Thank you. Jenny said, learn the art of walking away. Yeah, I mean, that was in response to Bukolas. Okay, Shano Olodin Shaki is here. Fantastic. How you doing, bro? Learn the art of walking away. Walk away. Good. Okay, Anita says, so true, walk away. I think it's looking like our watchword for today is walk away. Almost. All right. Yes, we should also give religious leaders a break. They don't know it all. Chinemerem, thank you for that. Thank you for that. Okay, Anita says, personally, I've been going through an issue regarding this. This meeting has been so helpful to me. Thank you all so much. Oh, thank you. We are so grateful to hear you say this. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Please, let's endeavor to reach out. Definitely. If we need to speak up, let's speak up. A lot of times we try to form, macho. We try to be big boy. I mean, hard guy, hard girl, like what somebody said earlier on. We need to, sometimes vulnerability is actually strength. And when we need to be vulnerable, please let's be vulnerable so we don't die for nothing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. So at this point, I don't know if there are any questions. Any questions from the audience? Genesis, you had a hand up, so you have the floor. Please, you can unmute yourself and speak. We have about 13 minutes. We need to wrap up very soon, so we can also do our giveaway. But Genesis, you have the floor. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. So there's something I would also like to add. When we are talking about mental health, most times the reason why some people are scared to open up is because of what got them in this situation. In the sense that when you were speaking about resilience, some people, because of that resilience, they would take in some substances that are not good for them. So that's why when they do take in those substances, it leads to harmful endurance. The link to that. But now when they want to open up, they won't tell you that's what they were doing before. That's why they are at this stage. And because of being afraid of opening up of such an horrible past, they prefer, let me just keep it to myself. Anything that happens, happens. And the other one I would like to say is, at the workplace, most times when people are talking about mental health, they tell us, sleep well, eat well. I currently work in an healthcare center. They posted something of recent about mental health for men or mental health in general. All the things they listed that we should do, our company does not allow us to do them. They will say sleep for 8 hours. Can you really sleep for 8 hours? Before 5 hours, you've opened up that, I need to send this document. I need to send this document. Even in the place of work, we don't have that. People just advise us that, do this mental health. But people we work with, the task or what they are giving is the opposite of the mental health, like what we're supposed to gain from it and all. But it simply boils down to the people we open up to, the people we choose to open up to determines everything. If I speak to my pastor, and my pastor does not know anything about mental health, he knows only about prosperity, nothing he says would really enter me because he has no idea about it. It will just come from a perspective of scripture. So I just wanted to add that we just really need to get the right and correct professional. Because when you're talking about professional, people start thinking about money. But there are also platforms that we can create like something like this where people get to learn for free. So I just wanted to appreciate Domino's. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Genesis. That was quite I'm looking for the right adjective for that, but thank you so much for that, Genesis. Thank you for the kind words. Really appreciate. Okay, I see your hand, Angela. Please, you have the floor. Angela, you can unmute yourself and speak.
Hi everyone, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
Hello, can you?
Yes, I can hear you.
So
I can
first
hear
off,
you.
I really want to appreciate. Okay, I really want to appreciate Chinemerem for inviting me and telling me about this event. I wouldn't have known about it. Now, as someone who has gone through the entire process of having a therapist and going to therapy and healing and is still constantly in the process of healing, one thing people forget is that healing is not a linear process. It's something that one moment you're healing and you're forgiving yourself for the mistakes you made in the past, and tomorrow the past is coming back to haunt you again. So the thing is, what I want to just say is kindness to yourself at every point in time. In fact, at every day I forgive myself. Every day I tell myself you're just a human being and it's okay to make mistakes. One thing that I will always say is therapy saved my life. I don't get when I said it to my uncle, he's a pastor, he looked at me as if I don't believe in the word of God. But I would tell you, for years I had serious headache. Serious headache. I was taking paracetamol almost every single day. I was popping it every day, but the headache wouldn't leave me. A week after therapy, after my therapy session, I realized that the headache disappeared. When I reached out to my therapist and I said, I no longer have headache, what happened? I don't understand. What changed? She said, and I quote, you kept trauma in your body for a very long time. So your body gave you headache to distract you from the emotional pain you were going through. The moment you started dealing with the emotional pains, the headache disappeared. So one thing I would say once again is forgive yourself at every single point. If you like, go to therapy from now till tomorrow. You will still learn to forgive yourself because you're a human being. You will make mistakes. So it is okay for you to keep forgiving yourself. I'm still forgiving myself for the mistakes I did, for the things I did when I was 15 years old. And I'm way older than 15 now. And I'll still forgive myself for the mistakes I will do when I'm 30 years old. Because after all, I'm human and I'm expected to make mistakes. The important thing is to show myself grace. The grace I would show other people, I start by showing it to myself. The Bible said, love yourself, your neighbor as you love yourself. So I'm showing myself the love I would show other people by being kind to myself, the same way I would be kind to other people. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you so for that, Angela. That's very pointed, very strong points. From learn to forgive yourself. And I'm going to take some comments again. I think I see some comments in this comment section. All right. Shannon saying this way, you can hardly sleep for 8 hours. That's true. Okay, I was telling someone recently that in the last 2 weeks, I've not slept for 5 hours in a day because of the stress. And trust me, this is how it starts. We don't know. We think we are working, we think we are hustling, but gradually you're doing yourself a lot of harm, one way or the other. Now, going back to the emotional part and the mental health issues there. Thanks for your point there. Basically, okay, Bukola says healing is the journey. Forgiving yourself is part of the process of therapy. Good. So true. I've heard such testimonies. And Anita says, you're so right, Angela. Forgiving yourself is the most important part of therapy. I agree. China Miriam says, it's really great to be kind to yourself. Seeking professional help is key. Genesis said, you kept trauma in your body for so long. That's just reactioning your point there, Angela. Wow. So basically, the solution wasn't necessarily health medications. It was just you learning to release yourself, allow yourself, heal naturally. That's natural healing. Without any pastor laying hands on you, the healing just happened because you learned to, decongest, as it were. All right. Basically, Anita says, trauma isn't something that leaves your body, stays with you, hiding, waiting for a time to eat you up. That's another deep one. Olani Shanu says, Angela, you're so right. Forgive yourself is the most important part of therapy. Okay. Cynthia says, we fail to realize that unforgiveness to ourselves and to others causes more harm than good. Wow. I'm seeing this from different dimensions, and I'm so grateful for being a part of this webinar today. Thank you so much to every one of you, the audience, the panelists. You've all been fantastic. Bukola says, we have gone through one form of trauma or the other. So we all need therapy in this dimension. To this, the challenge I have right now is that I don't even know how to go about it. Everyone here has been so special. So the giveaway, the way we do our giveaways is that we look at our audience. Of course, the panelists are exempted. The moderator is exempted, so I don't get to win the 20K. None of my panelists get to win the 20K. But our audience get to, we get to vote one of the members of the audience to win the giveaway. So for me, my nominees for this evening, of course, the first person will be Genesis. I have Genesis. I have to put Angela also in that box as well. And of course, I also have, okay, I'm trying to see who else. Sorry, I'm trying to look at, I'm trying to look at all others. all the others. Okay, of course, I have Chinemerem as well. We're looking at the nominees for our giveaway tonight. Oh, definitely, I have Cynthia as well. Mrs. Mabiaku, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. And okay, I also have, oh, okay, I have Anita. I have okay, I have Anita also on that. I have Anita, and I think maybe I should add Oloni Shakin as well. So this will be my nominees for today's giveaway. So can we just vote on this? Who do we think deserves this? Anybody? Just put their names. You can just type their name in the comment section. Whoever has the multiple names, the names I mentioned already, just type any. If you think this person deserves the giveaway, mention. If you think you deserve the giveaway, mention your own name. So the names again, like I said, I have on my nominees list for our 20,000 naira giveaway in today's webinar. Okay, I think Pastor Wali has a hand. But please, you have a hand, and you can go ahead, Pastor Kinyomi.
Yes, I was just going to ask you. You have basically 4 people
Yes.
listed. Why don't you just share the 20,000? Among the 4 people.
Among them, okay, interesting. This was what we did for the first 2 sessions. The first in August and in September, we shared it among 4 people. So people will just do that again. But let me say, are they actually 4 or 5 now? But something very funny happened in the last edition. We had nominees, but we voted on it. So the person who had the highest votes, we thought he was even going to share. He said, no, he's not going to share. He wants to take the whole money for himself. And it worked with his 20,000 naira. So again, like I said, I have Angela, I have Anita, I have Chinemerem, and I have Genesis. Okay, technically there are 4 of them. There are 4 of them. Okay, there are 4 of them. Okay, should we do it that way? Is that okay, guys? The 4 people that we mentioned. If you think it's okay, please can you put a yes in the comment section? So at least we know that's recharge card money. All right, oh, we have 5. Okay, Shanu. Oh, Olani Shaki Shanu says we have 5. Okay. All right, there are 5 people here. All right, is it actually 5? Let me be sure there are not even more. Okay, win-win situation it is. Okay, that's fine then. So we'll just we reckon with all 5 of you. Please, at the end of this webinar, just send me a chat or just do an email. I'll type our email in the comment section. Just DM us your account details so we can just at least do that. Do the little we can. Thank you so much, every one of you. And at this point, I'll just allow my panelists just win-win situation, correct? Olani Shaku, correct. Let's have final parting words for my panelists. And I think I'll start this time with, let me have Pastor Akinyomi first. So just give us in 30 seconds your parting shots even as we go, sir.
Yes, talking about win-win situations, talk to your pastor, talk to your mental health practitioner. And you would definitely be able to combine the best of the two. I feel it's very important for us to be great citizens of Nigeria. In the course of being great citizens, you are definitely improving your mental health. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pastor Akinyomi. Really appreciate that. Very, very pointed and very thoughtful. All right, let me have Sarah Shile. Can we have your closing remarks? Just give us your parting words before we go.
Yeah. So what I would just say that we should just look into ourselves. Let's see how we are being affected. If we are having any issues or so, we should try and tackle it as soon as possible. We shouldn't delay. We shouldn't procrastinate. We should just monitor yourself and make sure you're okay.
Wow. Thank you so much for that, Sarah Shile, for that. Okay, let me go to Shola Ogidon. I hope he's still on the call. I know he disappeared for a bit.
Yes, I'm here.
Shola, are you still here?
Yes,
good,
yes,
good.
I'm
Thank
here.
you so much. Yes, your parting shots, please.
Anyone can have mental issues. Things happen to every one of us. So it's not a big deal. Don't see it as anything strange. It's not God testing you, and it's not necessarily any spiritual anything. So while you are talking with your pastor, while you are praying, just also know that you may just need to meet a therapist, and so being okay mentally, that should be your priority. So whichever channel you are going to achieve it, make sure you are mentally sound. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Thank you. Make sure you're mentally sound, no matter whichever way you want to go about it. Make sure that's the objective of it. Abukola Oladeji, can we have your parting shots, please, even as we leave, as we go?
Thank you, Denga. Man is a tripartite being. He is a spirit. as a soul and live in a body. Whatever affects your soul will definitely affect your body. Take care of the three if you want to live a holistic life. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to all my panelists. I'm just going to quickly read a few comments before we go. Okay, I see Chidemere is a protester. He said, I don't understand. We should vote now. All right, okay, I think Chidemere wanted to win the 20K. You might not have won it though. Funny enough. So you better just let's share this money. Eh? Thank you. Okay, Shannon says, I'm so pleased to be part of this session. Can you post on the YouTube channel? Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that. We'll post post all this on our YouTube channel and we'll share with. In fact, the recording is currently being done, so we'll share the recording with everyone who attended. Now, of course, like we said, the winners of today's giveaway, please send your account details to info@dynamicalconsulting.com.ng or 0813-292-8198. Daniel Dele said it's been an insightful session. Thank you so much, Daniel, for joining us. Bukola says, take command is a tripartite being. He's a spirit and he has a soul and he lives in the body. Whatever affects your soul will definitely affect your body. Take care of all three if you want to live a holistic life. Powerful, powerful words. Thank you so much to everyone. Chinemerem said, very beautiful party was. I love this session. I love this session too. Next month, we're going to be looking at a very, very interesting topic. And we're looking at our Jackpot stories. So basically, let me give I know it's already 9:03, 9:02, but we'll wrap up in the next few minutes now. Now, our Jackpot stories talks about Nigerians, who have had to leave this country. So basically, we are going to be exploring the lives of some of our friends outside in the diaspora, some of our clients who live outside Nigeria. What made them leave Nigeria? What has been the experience so far? If they could take it back, would they wish to have stayed back? Or are they happy they left? What about the adjustments it took? How long did it take them to adjust? And all that. We hear a lot of stories of those who have left this country. A lot of people have regrets today. We want them to come and tell us their stories. A lot of them are happy they did. I know of someone who left this country, literally sold everything he had. And the man was like, he doesn't mind anything to get out of this country. It took him almost 2-3 years to settle, with his family in the UK. But today, when we speak, he says he has no regrets he ever left. And at the same time, I also know someone who will tell me that, he wishes he never left. So I want to hear these stories. Let's hear people's Jackpot stories. So please feel free. Let's begin to invite people in advance. Let's make it a robust one. Let them come and tell their stories. Maybe some of us who are in Nigeria today might also think, look, I think it's better a Jackpot. Or maybe you're contemplating Jackpot. You say, let me just stay back. So idea behind this sessions is just to create some thought leadership and have this conversation. So this is these webinars are being sponsored by Dynamical Consulting. Basically, we have two areas of service. We have a capacity building and development services, and we also have the brand support and representation services. If you want to know more about us, you always check us on social media, our website, and all that. We'll be sharing some of these details with you, of course, when we are sending the feedback from this webinar to you. Thank you so much for taking time to join us this evening, and I wish you a wonderful December and Merry Christmas in advance. Of course, we look forward to seeing you on the last Friday of this year. Or I don't know what the date is, but we'll definitely keep you posted. And thank you so much and have a wonderful evening. Oh, somebody said I'm tired of this country already, Angela. All right. We look forward to seeing you guys in the next sessions. Thank you again to all my panelists. Pastor Wale Akinyomi, thank you so much. Bukola Oladeji, Ms. Bukola Oladeji, thank you so much. Pastor Shola Ogidon, thank you so much. Ms. Sarah Shile, Ms. Sarah, thank you so much. And of course, all our audience, everyone who participated in this webinar. My name is Olugbenga Shile, and of course, I was your host, and I'm still your host, or someone else decides to take over from me. I look forward to seeing you again next month.
Thank you. Bye. God bless you.
Bye-bye, and have a wonderful night. Let me